how do you create a home where your kids don't need to have any airs or facades?
Everyone's going to go through stuff. You can't stop that from happening. The point is that no matter what they're going through, as long as you are the solid one that stays there for them, not afraid to go through that stuff with them, then they'll be okay.
Good afternoon, Cea Sunrise Person. Thank you for joining me again. This is our third interview.
Hi, Suzanne. How are you?
Good, thanks. I want to talk to you about a different topic today, about the facade that happens in kids and this idea of kids putting on a facade and mask what's going on at home when they are at school or outside of the house. And you are the perfect person to talk to.
Okay, thank you.
You're always ready for anything. I love your poster there of North of Normal. So you wrote North of Normal.
Thank you.
You wrote Nearly Normal. You just told me you're doing screenplays, and I want you again now in this next podcast to tell me the important, relevant parts of your upbringing. I mean, everybody could watch the movie North of Normal, but let's hear from you.
Well, very briefly, I was born in 1969, and my family was very much into the counterculture and wanted to live off the grid. So my mom, who was 16 when she had me, basically took me with her parents, my grandparents, to live in the wilderness, in teepees, basically, hunting and gathering for our survival and living under canvas and living a very off-the-grid existence. And we lived like that kind of off and on for the first 10 years of my life. And in the meantime, my mom was looking for love in all the wrong places. So there were a lot of adventures that went on with that. And then after we moved to the city, when I was 13, I embarked on a modeling career. So I kind of went from this crazy wilderness to a different kind of jungle, I guess.
In Europe.
So that's the gist of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's a jungle in Europe. You also are writing screenplays now.
Yes.
And what I love about you is that you are absolutely proud to say you will not hike in the mountains here. Like, I love it, right? Makes so much sense with your upbringing in the wilderness. You will not go in our North Shore mountains.
Yeah, it's not really my thing. I hate camping. I'm not really. I hate hiking. Oh my God, I hate it. I don't know. Maybe I had too much of all that when I was young. I don't know.
I love that you're proud of that because we are a hiking community here, right? And I just think it's so great to
I don't
be
know
so
if I'm
honest.
proud of it. I wish actually that I enjoyed it. Quite honestly, I just had to accept that about myself because I've tried really, really hard to like anything outdoorsy, and I just don't.
We're in our 50s. You don't have to. Can you tell me, I've never asked you this word. Can you tell me what the word normal means to you? I mean, it's in both of your books, North of Normal and Nearly Normal. But what does that word mean for you?
I haven't thought about that in a while. I guess to me it would mean to be, everyone has their own, obviously, personal normal, and I wouldn't expect it to be anywhere near the same for anybody. But for me, I think it feels like living kind of in a peaceful place where I am living the way that I want to and not feeling like I have to pretend or be anything that I'm not, that I can just sort of, be myself.
I like the word peaceful. I hadn't considered that part of it, but it makes sense because you are then not in turmoil.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I think I've spent most of my life in turmoil. I think a lot of us do. And there have been more moments of normal in my life more than long stretches.
You had said to me that you had gone to school for normal, that you wanted desperately to have normal at school. And so much that you're in my thesis about having that at school be able to be your normal and putting on this facade and how easy it is to hide behind the beauty that you have, and everybody thought you were okay. So can you tell me then, what was school for you in the midst of all of your home turmoil?
It sort of varied. I went to quite a few different schools, and I was often the new girl. And so I would say that a lot of the time school did feel kind of threatening to me because I knew, it was the place where I had to go and like try to be like everybody else, and I was so different from everyone else, and I did not want any of that to be exposed. I also started school a year late. I guess I felt like, not academically quite caught up with a lot of my peers because I was kind of in and out of school a lot. So I would say my early years were very difficult that way. And I was really trying to fit in. And the way that I tried to fit in was by just kind of fading into the background. But later, like as I got a little bit more stability in my life, I would say that school became more of a stability thing for me, something that I could go to every day and it was predictable, unlike my home life.
Mm-hmm.
And especially after I made a couple of friends, but making friends was always very challenging for me in my years.
Well, it's hard that moving around. Do you have your best story of hiding the turmoil at home? And we're talking, you had a lot of neglect, particularly, right?
I was in grade 7 or 8, and we were in social studies class. We were talking about economics, and the teacher, teaching was so different back then. Teachers would just ask like personal questions. And so he was kind of like, put your hands up if you're low income. Put your hands up if you're, oh, I know, right?
What?
if
Really?
if your family is, middle class, put your hands up if you're
Wow.
upper class or whatever. We were supposed to be rating ourselves um, by our, whatever our financial situation at home was. So I kind of looked around and then I put my hand up for middle class, which was like completely, it was what I wanted to be, of course. We were trying to live on like $20 a week of grocery money, like it was just,
Wow. Yeah. And your friends didn't know, right?
well, some did, because I did have a couple of close friends that I would have over, and so they got to know my mom and my home situation. And so I did have a couple of friends who knew, and they were in similar situations to me, like if not, the family dynamic as much, but financially.
We talked about this before of you falling under the radar. And I think it's so powerful for anybody that works with kids to understand that kids, they want to be normal and hide. And I found that the kids at my psych unit, the ones that had the most trauma were the ones that were the best in school because they wanted to go to school and that was their safe place.
Yeah.
So, did you put any facade on at home with your parents in terms of how you were feeling or responding?
No, I mean, it was just my mom and I feel like I was probably myself with her and would be angry or frustrated because of something that was going on with her. There would be a lot of tension and friction between us for sure. Like I would say that people probably wouldn't recognize me at home because that's where I let a lot of my anger come out.
When did your facade to the outside world crack? Because it obviously did. You've written 2 books about your upbringing.
I don't know, probably, yeah, around the time that my books came out, and you can't write 2 memoirs and not have people know the truth about you.
And you had said it was your process too, right? In the writing, wasn't it? Like you worked through all of the stuff in your writing.
I would say, especially with my second book, I worked through some things that I had really like not faced. The stuff that was in my first book was just kind of all the crazy stories of my life that had always been there.
So part of my goal here is to look at indicators that somebody is pretending or things aren't well at home. And so the question is, what is the difference, do you think, between a child who's genuinely thriving and things are good at home and one who's just really good at performing all to the outside world?
Most of the kids that are really having problems at home, you're going to see it in their behavior at school.
I want to shift into home and what parents can do. So you have kids. How do you create a home now? And I know that you're flipping the switch from your upbringing. How do you create a home where your kids don't need to have any airs or facades or behaving differently than how they're really feeling on the inside from home?
That for me is just all about just being there for them. Everyone's going to go through stuff. Kids go through stuff. You can't stop that from happening. I mean, we all try to as parents, right? The point is that, no matter what they're going through, as long as you are the solid one that stays there for them, not afraid to go through that stuff with them, then they'll be okay. And I really believe that.
Well, and what you said to me when you and I did the podcast about healing from trauma, and I asked you, how do you know that you're healed? And it really stuck with me, Cea, that you said you're healed if you can put yourself first sometimes because your kids are your number one. Mm-hmm. You've done the exact opposite of your mother.
Yeah, exactly.
You've been very present for your kids to offset.
Yes, definitely. And I've definitely put myself last. And a lot of that is just something that you naturally do as a mother.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I sort of, let it go to the extreme, I think, just because of the way I was raised. And I just wanted to be like 100% certain that I didn't, repeat any of the mistakes that my mother had made. And then really spent a long part of my parenting career never being able to put myself first, like not even always, thinking of them. And that's not the best thing in the world either for them.
Well, you've been there.
Yeah, I have been.
It's Gabor Mate that talks about trauma, and he said it's not what actually happened to you, it's how you process it after the fact. And that's exactly what you've just said, right? Of having people with you. So if parents are on the home front and things have gone on, just being present and not perfect. And able to walk through that when it's easier to maybe go hide in your office and close the door.
Exactly. And I think that's what a lot of our parents' generation did. They would emotions and they would send kids to their rooms or leave the room themselves and let the child deal with it themselves. And I think that's actually what has caused a lot of problems.
Absolutely. Has it been hard for you? Sorry, this just came to me. I'm just curious, when your kids go through their own stuff, does that bring up all of this childhood experiences for you when you are with them and you sit with them?
No.
Okay.
No. It's just so different.
Right.
My kids have such a different childhood than I did, and everything about it is so different. No.
Your kids have a very different childhood than you did. I can attest to that.
Yes.
When you were in school, I know I've asked you this before. I just want to go back to this because I think this is a powerful question for the adults that work with kids is, what did you need those other adults to know about you, even though they didn't know? Like in a perfect world and things that you didn't say, is there one thing or coaches or, any outside adults?
I don't think that there was anything in particular I needed anyone to say. I think it was just more of making school a welcoming place. And I got that from a lot of my team.
What strikes me, like again and again, is how we do not know what happens in homes. And that we would be gobsmacked if we did know what happens in some homes. So therefore, you never assume.
Right.
And if somebody's won the genetic jackpot, even more you never assume. Because it's what's happening behind closed doors is something that I think it can be very well hidden.
Yeah, I agree.
I've said I think that now teenagers are the masters of the facade because they learn it every single day on social media.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
The branding on social media, how you're supposed to look, how you present yourself, how you talk, what you relay or not, they unknowingly learn every single day how to put on a facade.
Yes.
You're doing great. You got the great life. You went out on Friday night. Here's your party. And then we lose all the authenticity in that.
It's just terrifying to me what's happening to, the younger generations right now. The research, there's no surprises there. I don't see how it can't continue to get worse and worse.
So we got to call it. We got to call it. They're more disconnected than ever. I think that there's more of a facade than ever before. I think there's more of a need for that support, understanding, and care, and yet we don't see it or don't call it or name it or really tackle it.
Yeah, I know. But it's very hard to put the toothpaste back into the tube.
I know, right? However, I will say I'm doing a presentation on Friday about this. We did it with cigarettes. We did the cigarette revolution. There's no more smoking on airplanes. There's no more smoking in hospitals. In 2008 was the BC Tobacco Act. And guess what? You weren't even allowed a designated area anymore. And people freaked out. And
Right.
somehow, and people, you know what the research says? We adjusted faster than people thought.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We did it
Yeah.
with cigarettes.
I would love to see it.
I know.
But then again, I'm not going to be the very first to start it either.
Okay, I always do 3 wrap up questions, as you well know, to take us back to our goals. And I want of just like confronting the facade, and I want to get into warning signs actually now of how can we see. We've kind of touched upon it. But can you tell me the warning signs that somebody could be hiding somebody? I mean, I've asked you the question already if you could see it in others, but are there certain things people say or behaviors or mannerisms that show anything that maybe things aren't as good as they are intended to appear?
I think that people pleasing is a big one, especially for girls, which is tough because, girls are trained to please. I think that to kind of an extreme degree, probably a warning sign.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Any sort of indication of not wanting to go home, right? Kids who have parents who never show up to
Right.
events.
I want to take that part B to that question is if your child tells you that they are fine, how do you know if they actually are?
Well, I think that's a personal thing between a parent and a child. I can always tell my kid when my kids are fine or not, no matter what they say to me. But, I spend a lot of time.
Like looks on faces, tones of voices change
Yeah,
in my
yeah,
kids.
for sure, for sure. They're not always willing to share, for sure, but I find that just giving them some space and approaching later.
Such good. Yes. Yes. Let's pause there. You hit it, I think, is if they say I'm fine and they don't want to talk,
Don't
lots of
try
parents, I think,
there.
they,
That's just, yeah.
but then some take it, okay, then they're done versus the next day
Right,
or the
right.
next week bringing it up, right? You don't want to hound them, but usually when they say I'm fine and you know that they're not, they're lying,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that might not be the right time. But I
yeah.
think it's so important, that idea of like, I will be back to you.
Yeah, I always just say, I'm here if you want to talk.
Well, it's important to understand that teenage brain too, the neurology bit, and just these heightened emotions and,
Yeah.
this negativity bias and all these elevated responses that they need more time to cool down than
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I do. Okay, so we talked about you creating a safe space at home for your kids. Follow-up question to that, question number 2, wrap up, is what can parents and teachers do to build the kind of safety where the kids can stop performing, where they know that they can be themselves?
I don't feel like my kids ever feel like they need to perform in front of me. I think most kids kind of let it out with their family.
My experience with the kids that did have turmoil is some of them, if they knew that the parent was going to get mad, they held it in. Or if they felt judged in the past, then this next situation, they're holding it in.
Definitely. Yeah. Unfortunately, it only takes a few of those incidents for them to really like go into their shell and learn, get that signal and stop talking. So I would say, yeah, I mean, if you can, to just try from the beginning to always let them know that you're a safe spot.
You know what? The thing I found the most in my research was it was the judgment that shut everything down. Even a look on the face or your
Yeah.
response and your tone of voice.
Look on, oh my
right?
gosh.
That
Yeah.
you don't intend.
I know.
They just, especially if they don't have good relationship with the parent, that I found that was the number one thing. If you want to shut down your kid and you don't want them to talk to you
Yeah.
and you don't want to hear what's going on, you judge, not intentionally, that'll do the trick.
Or offer advice. Offering unsolicited advice is also, I've made that mistake before. And so now I've learned that would you like me to just listen?
Well, and it's a dance sometimes with the kids. Sometimes I know that my kids want advice. I know that they do, and it depends on the context. And other times, like just this morning with one of them, I just said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That sucks. I'm so sorry. That's heartbreaking." Yeah. Zero advice. Last question. So if there is a single one thing you would like to penetrate homes so that parents can understand how to build that space where their child can be authentic, what's that single advice?
Oh, I think it's just what we've talked about. Be there. Just be there for them. And, You can just be dead silent, be there. Think of yourself as a sponge. How I think of myself sometimes, I'm like, I'm absorbing all the bad stuff, right? For them, if I can.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of all that you need to do.
I love that. The idea of just knocking on a bedroom door and can I come in and just sit down? Just plunk on the floor.
Mm-hmm,
Like that's
mm-hmm.
exactly what you're saying. Really, you're just being there, right?
You know, what do you want for dinner or something like that? That's like not threatening or challenging at all. And then, so are you okay? I'm here to talk if you need to. And then that's it. And then give them their space.
Food gets them every time. Food.
Yeah, the handy one.
It is. I've always said if your kid wants to go for a burger, get them bacon and they'll sing like a bird. Thanks for listening. Now, you can do your part and share this with a parent who wants to know how to support their child better, who is maybe putting on a facade at school or not authentic at home, and how to create those safe spaces. You can subscribe to this channel and click like on that little link below. Leave any comment. I will respond to all, and I will see you next time.